Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. Let's get started. Hi everyone and welcome. I am your host Tia Harmer and today we are discussing budgeting and how you can budget productively. I'm here with Pei Fun Liem. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. How's the weather where you are? It's bucketing down rain here today. It's so cold.
In here it's so hot.
Yeah, it's so warm there. Oh, I wish I could be there. So lucky. So before we started this podcast, we were discussing sort of how I got to where I am. So how did you get to where you are in your position as sort of like a finance expert and professor?
Okay. First, I actually don't recognize myself as an expert. Okay,
Okay.
so I actually studied management when I took my undergraduate, and then I took a minor in finance. I found it's actually useful because finance is needed everywhere. And then
Yeah.
I continue my study uh, for 2 years, 2004, 2006 in finance as well. And then I worked as a professor teaching research. And then uh, at the moment I pursue my doctoral study in finance as well.
Wow, that's amazing. How is that going?
Um, of course, challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
you're enjoying it?
uh, yes, to some extent. Yep. Yes, but I think because it's something that I do, and I think it's useful also, and everyone actually, and I can apply it for my financial planning, my family financial planning, and I think everyone need it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something I've always been a bit jealous of the commerce students. I'm like, oh, you guys understand like how to actually handle finances and money. But hopefully today's podcast is sort of going to shed a bit of light on that for those who, like me, are not commerce or finance students. So as we've already mentioned, today we're going to be discussing budgeting. This is something that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. And as a uni student, I've definitely sort of come to understand its benefits. But I've also sort of come to see, yeah, when I don't implement it, sort of what can go wrong. So for our listeners, Payfun, how would you define budgeting?
I think it's budgeting is basically allocation of what we have, yeah, and how we allocate it, and then how we also spend it wisely, and also it actually it also we can invest as well. So how we actually manage and allocate our money. That's that's basically according to me what is budgeting.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it encompasses sort of a lot. So it's going to be fun to sort of flesh that out later in the podcast. And for those who are listening who haven't sort of gauged, me and Payfun are not in the studio together. So she's
Yes.
in Singapore and I'm in Melbourne. So yes, that's why, typical Zoom or Zencaster problems, someone will be on mute saying something, or so just bear with us as we tend to, figure this out. So now we're going to do some rapid fire questions for our listeners. So this is just sort of a get to know you a little bit better. So I'll say some words. There's only 5 of them. So when I say them, just sort of share whatever comes to mind, the first thing you think of, whether it's a favorite of yours or something that you've been interested in. So I'll say the word and you say what you think of. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Do you have a favorite book?
Yes. At the moment, I have to read a lot of actually articles, journal articles, but also some of the books. And I currently also concerned with the environmental issue and how it's related with economics. So I read some books related with economics and environment.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
That's so
it's
interesting.
interesting. Yes, especially nowadays, like we have like extreme weathers, and then also
Mm,
and it at first I thought it happened like far away, but but in fact, like a few months ago in my hometown, I never experienced hailing, and
yeah.
because our hometown is actually in the tropical country, but it turned out there is hail in our hometown.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so at first I thought like, oh, it's still far from maybe from our place. I read the news about fire and then about
Mm,
wildfire and then drought. It actually already concerned me, but when it struck near our places like um, floods and then also like extreme heat as well as the hail. So it's kind of like making me it's make me feel like, okay, this is actually not something that very far.
yeah.
It's actually what happened at the moment. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
definitely.
last time in Australia is also there is bushfire, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
get
that's
all of it here.
yeah.
Yeah, I think recently in Queensland there's been some really extreme floods. I
Mm.
know I've got family up there, so
Oh,
they've been really heavily impacted, and it's just not slowing down. It's been like this for like maybe 2, 3 months now.
oh,
So yeah, I think it's really important to read about sort of how the economy affects the environment and how everything affects the environment. So it's important for us to learn about. So I'm sure that'd be really interesting to read about, actually. Did you
yeah.
have any sort of like book recommendations for people who wanted to read about that?
Um, oh, actually, a lot of books, but last I read Cato about economics and environment, and then about sustainability. That's
Mm,
uh, that's really I think many good books written about environment and economy, how actually economic activities affect environment, but in to some extent also how actually we can use economic also uh, to to maybe like to foster the transition into better like it's like how economy and financial system can help also the environment,
mm,
because we usually said like, okay, because of the economic activities environment is actually uh, uh, having degradation because like there are externalities, public good which is actually not being priced in the.
yeah.
Yeah, but somehow we also need to think how actually economic activities can also to some extent um, help the environment protection, help the mitigation and adaptation, risk mitigation and adaptation of the severe climate weather and extreme weather, and also sea level rise. Yeah, I think those things are important as well for us to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something that everybody should learn about, even if you're not studying it.
Yeah,
Then I think it's always important to read and learn about it. So thank you for that.
yeah.
Okay, what is one of your favorite movies?
Oh, if you ask me one, it's quite difficult, but um, there are many movies that I like, but mostly maybe the genre that I like is um, uh, action and also comedy romance. I
Nice.
also
Yeah.
I like to see. I don't like horror though.
No, me neither. I hate scary films.
Yeah.
Scary films are horrible. I just can't understand. Like, my friends are like, oh, the thrill. And I'm like, no thrill. It's just scary. It's just scary. Do you have a favorite romantic comedy? I know that I have a long list of romantic comedies. So I'm interested to see what some of your favorites would be.
Oh, um, because at the moment currently I did not watch movie a lot, but uh, I remember like there are a lot of movie that I watch. Yeah, of course. Recently, if I watch James Bond, for example, like
Yeah.
that, yeah, because it's just recent, right? But
Yeah.
for it's quite I didn't watch quite a long time for the movie, but for James Bond and those kind of movie, I because it's recent
Yeah.
movie, right? I watched that.
Yeah, a recent release. So good. Yes,
Um,
we love action movies
what
and
what movie that
romantic
you
comedies.
watch?
Oh,
Maybe you
I don't
can
know.
help me to remind me.
I'm trying to think. I think what did I watch the other day? I was watching um I had to watch something for a class that I was taking. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Um oh, I had to watch What Women Want.
Ah,
Like
okay,
movie
okay.
with it's got Mel Gibson in it.
Mm.
Classic movie. The music in that is like such a good movie. It's classic romantic comedy, like typical good 2000s romantic comedies. We love them. We love them.
Mm.
Okay, so what is a podcast that you're currently listening to or a favorite podcast?
Actually, I watch your podcast.
Thank you, thank you. I feel like yes, we're obliged to say that. So you can list others, don't worry.
No, but I because at the moment like there are a lot of online webinars and also online conference that I have to attend.
Yeah,
So I kind of like, okay, I have enough online webinars and online conference, so I may not want to add
don't really
more.
feel like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand if like yes, some people actually okay just want to maybe listen for half hour or yeah. I think it's basically like I understand like because we are currently like really having a lot of information and we have to pick and we have
Mm,
to be selective with the one that will because we have limited time, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah. Beside your podcast, I think I didn't really, but I actually watch or attend a lot of online webinar and online
Yeah.
conference as well.
Yeah, I think they're good substitutes. You know, we'll take our podcast as the answer to that question, don't worry.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so who is your famous role model?
Hmm. It's quite difficult, but I think Mother Teresa, Warren Buffett, those I
Wow.
think, yeah.
They are like big, influential, like famous role models.
Yes, yes.
They're good
Because
though. I know, I like that.
yeah, if Mother Teresa, because until the day she passed away, we already know her track record, right, and how is the
Mm.
positive impact that she gave to the community.
Yeah.
For Warren Buffett, he's still alive, and
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of maybe because I'm in finance, so a lot of also
Yeah.
I read his biography as well as his 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 record his suggestions
Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh,
so,
you read his biography?
yes, and also
Oh, did you enjoy
yes,
it?
yes, and also I remember some of his suggestions for example like don't buy a thing more than it worth.
Mm.
And then also like in fact a lot of investment strategy because he's value investing, right? And I think
Yeah.
he also already proved that he is consistently do well, uh,
Mm.
and also like a philanthropist as well, right?
Yeah,
He is, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
are so many like famous sort of like finance quotes of his, or like sort of tips and skills that people know of, but they don't know that it's him.
Yes, just
So
refer
great.
to his.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Mm.
Okay, and final question. What is a recent course you have completed?
Okay, because I took my doctoral study, so
Right.
I just completed my course in the capital market research,
Wow.
capital market research, and in accounting, and also capital market research and writing. Actually, I have to attend writing courses as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's I think for research, because it's related with currently that what I did. So yeah, it also somehow like encourage me to read, encourage and forcing to some
Mm.
extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, encourage and force me to read a lot, read more, and
Mm.
especially like we have to write proposal and research proposal and so on. So we have to be aware also what is the current issue, uh,
Mm.
that current issue that or research gap that we can fill, so we can contribute also through our writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Well, I hope for the listeners, you now know Pay Fun just a little bit better.
Mm,
So we're going to dive into the interview questions now, sort of get into the nitty gritty stuff of sort of budgeting and productivity.
mm,
So, given the course of your experience, how would you personally define productivity?
okay, that's actually very hard questions because okay, I myself actually experienced changing in the definition of productivity when I
Mm.
was young. For me, productivity is like a tick list of target, personal target, and organizational target that I have to fulfill.
Yeah.
That that when I was young, I define productivity is like okay, target that I have to fulfill, and when I fulfill it, like I feel like okay, yeah, I can tick, and then it's it means like okay, today I have 10 lists and I did it all, so it's productive. But uh, as I'm getting older,
Yeah.
okay, so um, I define productivity differently. I think productivity is more toward
Mm.
how I grow to my fullest potential,
Yeah.
and at the same time, when I grow to the fullest potential, I can feel joyful, I can feel contentful, as well as giving impact, develop others as well. I
Yeah.
think that's now how I I see about productivity. It's not
Yeah.
just it's not just a long list of tick that I have to do like that.
Yeah. No,
Mm,
exactly. I think that's really interesting. Not a lot of guests have sort of brought that to light, that the definition for productivity for you personally changes over time.
mm,
So I think that's a really interesting point, yeah, that you've made in terms of what you think being productive for yourself means, sort of when you're in your 20s,
mm,
versus sort of when you're later in life and you have sort of developed those skills, what it means to be productive for you. So
mm,
yeah, I really like that sort of that changing definition, and sort of bringing sort of well-being into it. They're so interconnected.
mm.
So, what do you believe to be the main challenges that can hinder an individual's personal productivity?
Um, Many things. I think internal and external, but mostly perhaps I think because we cannot control external things, right? So I think mostly it's more toward our internal factors,
Yeah,
such as I think every person has different challenges. Some people maybe like laziness, it could be, right, or already in the comfort zone, doesn't want to grow. But maybe for some
yeah,
people, workaholic, maybe it could be also hinder
yeah,
productivity, right? Because we tend to think like okay,
definitely.
depend on our definition of productivity. Back to that one again. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think there's so many different factors, like you said, that can, yeah, hinder your personal productivity. And yeah, I'm liking your answers to these questions so far because they're sort of bringing up things that like our other guests haven't really discussed or fleshed out, which is so important. Sort of that
Mm,
flexibility that comes with sort of defining productivity and sort of how you can be sort of so overtly productive that it starts to actually hinder your productivity, sort of
yeah.
being obsessed with
Mm,
working. On one of the podcasts we discussed hustle culture and sort of how that could be a bit toxic sometimes.
yeah.
So I think there's lots of things that can hinder your personal productivity.
And
So
even maybe can, like, for example, we have time actually with our loved ones, but because of we don't really have quality time with them, it could be also, right? So it's, yeah,
yeah, exactly.
related.
There's important things. There's more important things in life than just sort of getting work done and that sort of thing.
Um,
Um, yeah, so that's great. So sort of circling back to budgeting, I don't think a lot of people think of these two things as being combined. When I think of budgeting, I don't think of sort of productivity and being productive with my money. And I know up until now, I've never sort of thought about how I can view budgeting as a way of being productive. I've always sort of viewed it as a tool that sort of, save money to make a big purchase, to buy a house or a car or that sort of thing. So, in your opinion, how do you think budgeting and productivity relate to each other?
I think it's so much related, because, like, back to my definition about productivity, it currently is like about like how we can grow to our fullest potential. So I think, like, if we are, for example, like if we do not manage our money well, somehow we also do not, we don't do budgeting. For example, we want to, for example, if we want to, uh, for example, like, okay, I want to join certain courses, or I want to join certain training which actually can help my passion, can also make me growing, but I don't really uh, allocate or budget about that one. I think it's kind of, it cannot be achieved as well, right? And also, not just not because like, of I don't know, maybe like people who have unlimited amount of money maybe don't need to budget.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think, but I don't think so. I think, like, because we do the budgeting, uh, it's also reflecting how we are also productive in other area of our life.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's related, and it's also reflecting how we manage our time, how we manage our money. It can help us to be productive.
Yeah, definitely. The reflection sort of, yeah, like you said, of how you manage your money and how you
Um,
manage your time
yeah.
very much sort of reflects sort of that part of your personality and who you are. If you're a bit more
Mm.
A type and you're very sort of place a lot of importance on organization and sort of these kind of things. Yeah, your bank account can definitely definitely reflect all of that. I know as a uni student, when exams are over, my bank account definitely reflects sort of the Saturday nights or the celebrations and that kind of thing. So, um,
Oh,
like we've sort of mentioned briefly, one of the main benefits of budgeting is highlighting what an individual needs versus what they want.
mm.
So, what tips do you have for people who struggle in formulating this difference?
Um, okay, so, uh, okay, basic things. First, it's like, if we want something, maybe like we think twice, whether it is, to differentiate between need and want. If we don't buy that, if we don't have that, is uh, is it still affecting our life? That, I think, one of the question, somehow, like, to differentiate what really needed and what we want. So if that thing is taken, if that thing is taken, or we don't buy that, can we still live? I think that's the first question to differentiate between what we need and what we want.
Yeah.
Primary, and we learn about primary, secondary, tertiary. But having said that, I didn't say that, okay, you just, is it mean that I just fulfill my basic needs, food, and then just that. I didn't mean to say that. As long as actually we can allocate, and we know how to prioritize, to do prioritization. So, for example, uh, 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 like planning for our pension, maybe it's like very long time, right? But it
Yeah.
needed to be done, and it's better we did it like since we were young, rather than we already reach to our retirement period. So as long as actually uh, we can prioritize, we can do prioritization, what is uh, important. So I think we can have both, what we want, what we need, and what we want. But first thing, we have to know, we have to
Yeah.
fulfill what we need first. Then we can fulfill the second, third, and tertiary things. Like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, again, as a uni student, I can
Yeah.
definitely understand sort of what you need versus what you want. You know, you want the new outfit or the new hat. But at the end of the day, sort of you need to pay bills and sort of eat food and that sort of thing first.
and
I don't know.
yeah, and one thing that I found paradox. So if we fulfill what we want now, we cannot fulfill what we need in a later period, right?
Yeah.
But, but if we fulfill first what we need now, and then we can allocate some amount of money for what we need in the future. Actually, we can also have more for what we want, like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way of looking at it, sort of that delayed gratification, living on what you need and you do need it. And then sort of, yeah, getting what you want later, which is always very nice.
Mm,
So, moving on, a common budgeting misconception is that it is believed to be sort of like a one time event. I know personally budgeting is something that I maybe do sort of like once a month or every couple of months, depending on sort of how organized I'm feeling. But I have friends who do it much more often than that. So it does require constant adapting according to an individual's certain situation.
mm,
So for the audience, how can we adopt a positive attitude towards budgeting and not view it as a stressful sort of event or a financial assessment that we're sort of dreading? Like, how can we change our attitude towards it?
mm. Um, First, I think once it's become our habit, it really helps. For example, like I just give like personal experience. When I have my earning. Once I did like, okay, I have like I do allocation, right? Okay, I do how many percent I need to invest, how many percent I need to, for example, maybe like if we have tithing and giving, how many percent like for our needs, our daily needs. So by doing that, it kind of help me to monitor, but it also doesn't stress me out. For example, like I really want to eat good food at the moment, for example, but because I know the uh, the the uh, the allocation of the money, I already allocate into the big chunk first, like the big chunk. So
Yeah,
actually it's okay. I every day, for example, I spend certain amount of money, but then I know this is Saturday, like what you said, you want to spend with your friends or
yeah,
whatsoever. You can do it, but somehow we know like, okay, how much amount that I still have
yeah,
for my expenses, like that. Yeah, it's somehow like helping us also. And uh, with investing, for example, like with investing, when we actually allocate also for investing, it's really good also if we saw it's growing. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
but I also not a person that I will record everything like in every day. And nowadays, actually, it's also quite helpful. Like if we have certain card, it's actually like at the moment I have card, so every expenses is actually already recorded. I just see in my mobile phone. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's help. I did not really need to write everything, right, because it's
Yeah.
already recorded there, like that. It's kind of help
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I think it's, yeah, having that sort of app on your phone. I think it's so helpful, yeah, for your budgeting productivity to see sort of what you've spent and how you've spent it. And depending on what bank you're with, I think some will sort of give you statistics. I know
Mm.
I was looking through one of my statements the other day, and there was some statistics that were on
Yes.
there that were a bit scary. It didn't look very nice. I'd spent, an enormous amount of food at this one place,
Oh.
and that sort of thing. So I think it's, those things can be a bit daunting, but I think it's helpful and it's healthy for you to sort of confront them and look at them and sort of change your attitude towards them so that, you're not running away from it because, finances and sort of financial security is something
Mm.
that affects everybody. So it's something that we sort of need to, yeah, have a positive attitude towards. As much
Mm.
as I hate sort of reading my bank statements, it's helpful, for me to be like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna spend sort of that much money on that much food.
Yeah, and
Um,
it helped us to evaluate as well. So
yeah,
like what you mentioned, right? Okay, okay, this is actually after we did it, like something, sometime like, okay, it's too expensive, for example. So somehow like we evaluate our spending as well, right? It helps, and yes, it's correct because they provide us with, like, for example, how much is for transportation, how much is for food, how much
mm,
is actually for other things, so we can trace also um, uh, what is our biggest expenses, and it actually also can help us what is our biggest weaknesses,
yeah,
like yeah, it somehow can help that as well. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So for most people, so if you get your statement or sort of like you sort of go through your bank account on like a monthly sort of, or I think it's like 2 to 3 months, I think, every time you get a bank statement, depending on who you're with. Um, but for people who want to practice budgeting and sort of have this misconception that it is sort of a one time event, um, when do you think, or how often do you think people should sort of look at their bank accounts as sort of, filter through sort of their purchases and their spending?
um at least monthly, according to me. At least monthly, because we usually at least, why I said at least, because, but I don't think it's actually something that I want us to like having like mindset like actually doing budgeting is fun, like really
Yeah.
fun, like like if we did monopoly game, it's actually fun, not really
Yeah.
something that is really stressful. And second thing is, um, doing budgeting is actually does not make us live poorly, like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, like it help us to evaluate how we can manage our wealth
Mm.
wisely, like that.
Mm.
I think it helps. So for me, at least I just see monthly, because I allocate, after I allocate, and then I just check like monthly, and then I know, okay, this month actually I spend too much in which part, or perhaps like even like, okay, my investment in this is actually need to be also monitored and be balanced, for example. So
Yeah.
it somehow helps also, to, at least according to me, monthly, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think monthly tends to be when people look at it. You get your bills and that sort of thing around that time. So that tends to be when people confront it. But you brought up something interesting that I just sort of want to track back to. You said, we have to start looking at it as budgeting can be fun.
Mm.
How do you make budgeting fun? Because when I think of budgeting, it just sounds like such a nightmare. I hate math. I don't want to acknowledge how much money I'm spending on certain things. So how do you make it fun?
Mm, okay, it's actually very practical also thing that we can do. For example, after we receive our earning, and then we just allocate, first prioritize, right? Do not delay it until the last minute what we have to pay, what we have, for example, we have bill to pay, just fulfill that first, and
Yep.
then allocate, for example, from uh, uh, from our income, just allocate, okay, first pay the bill, and then after that we put aside for investment, and then after that just live with the rest, for example,
Yeah.
like that. So it's a good practice also to do, because we have tendency like this, um, instead of I think like this, many people like, just what they do, like, okay, I still have money, but if we already pay our bill and then allocate certain amount or certain percentage for investment, and then we live with the rest, so
Mm.
somehow we know, like, okay, this is actually what I have, not having like, okay, I still have money, so at the end we don't have anything to allocate to saving or investing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think first, just cut it first, that for paying the bill, cut it first for investment, allocate that, and then the
Yep.
rest, you just, yeah, you just live with the rest,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
No, that's a great mindset. And I think, yeah, having that prioritization that we talked about and
Ah,
sort of, yeah, you can have your needs and your wants as long as you're sort of doing it wisely and productively.
mm,
So a recent study indicated that many young individuals lack financial literacy and budgeting skills. So clearly education is key in this matter. I know when I was in school, I learned nothing about finances. They didn't teach us anything about tax. I don't know if this is an Australian school thing, but they didn't teach us anything about tax or finances or budgeting. And when I graduated, I relied entirely on my parents in terms of like, how do I know like certain things cost, or how do I know what to spend, or working out budgets. So, like, how
mm,
am I going to be able to pay rent and bills because I moved out of home? Sort of, how am I going to, figure out how much money to spend these things? Because when you're a kid and your parents pay for things when you're little,
mm,
and you're like, yeah, cool, like, I'm just going to get food for free. And then you move out and you're like, it's not free.
mm,
Nothing is free. Um, so my parents guided me a lot with my finances, and my school definitely didn't educate me on that. So, just some advice: how can schools or even parents sort of teach young individuals on budgeting so that they can be more financially literate?
Okay, so I think starting point is family, for sure, and then second, school. For family, this is my personal experience. Like, I have two sons, and at first, they don't understand, like, they don't understand what money, right? What they want, they just say to us as a parents, like, "Mom, I want this, I want that, I want to play
Yeah.
this, I want to play that," and then, okay, I just like, okay, I just give it like that. But then, I think when he start in the primary school, it's first grade, maybe around 6 years old. So, I start giving him like allowance, like allowance,
Yeah.
and then, uh, uh and if like maybe he received from grandma, grandpa, he can save it as well, and he can
Oh,
record
good
it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, uh, this is the funny thing. One time we go to the shopping mall, and then, he always like to play. There is a play that, actually it's only like, few minutes, but you have to pay. Usually he just asks me, and then I give it right now. One
Yeah.
time when he asked again, and then I told him like that, because, uh, he he not only like playing one time. There are several play that he wants to play. So I told him,
Mm.
like, okay, you can play, but it will be taken from your allowance. And then
Ooh.
he told me, and then he told me like this, but he tried to bargain. Oh, but I don't bring the money. I put it at home. I
Yeah.
told him, it's okay. I give you the money now, but then it
We'll
will be
take it out
deducted.
when you get yeah.
And then suddenly he said to me, no, no, mom, I don't want to play. It's expensive. So
Mm,
I think first, parents somehow also have to, maybe we can train them by giving them allowance.
mm,
So some this is actually also help them to allocate and
yeah.
to also prioritize which one that I have to fulfill first. So from that, actually, I learned also that uh, giving him allowance, like from the and it's like it giving him allowance. It means good for him. Like now he can get money, right? But it's also somehow give him responsibilities
Yeah.
to to differentiate what he really wants and what he actually he can delay it like that. And actually the good thing is he like Lego, right? My son like Lego,
Mm.
so he actually can save. And then I said, yeah, if you really want to play, it's okay, you can play it, but it will be deducted from your allowance. And then he just said, no, it's expensive. And but he can buy Lego, he can save, and then he can buy Lego. So
Mm,
I think somehow it's also train him to have uh, a responsibility, but yet I think satisfaction for him as well when he can he can he can buy it, like as if like he can buy it by his own, right?
yeah.
His own money. I think that from the family, from the school. I think from the school, some school already like starting like allocate money for saving like that. But
Mm.
as you grow up, in our uh, I teach in the university. In our university, actually, we also have like a group of we can not a group, like basically people who want to learn about investment, student who want to learn investment, they can join. At
Yeah,
first, like,
awesome.
yeah, and at first through simulation, but using the real data, but it's a simulation, so it's not real
Yeah.
money. But then they can start invest their money because at the moment it's actually access toward financial apps. It's an investment app is a lot, and we can start with really 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 low amount.
Mm.
Maybe it's only like one time eating, but you can actually start with that amount of money. So um, I think this also help the students, because if in a university, I think they already grew up, and they first they get the knowledge from the simulation, but then the second one, they can also get benefit from really investing their money in the product that they understand, also the return and the risk, like that. I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's many infrastructure that actually we can many infrastructure, and also many that we can curriculum, we integrate with curriculum, or we have like group like that for them to learn and to invest. And they're really happy when they start to,
I bet. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Mm,
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think, yeah, to implement that in the family, the home. And I think if, yeah, they can bring that into schools is sort of something that students can learn about.
mm,
Yeah, I think that's such a helpful tool. I know, yeah, it wasn't a thing when I was younger. So I hope that sort of the younger generation can start to benefit from this research and this understanding that people are providing.
mm,
So, touching back on sort of that family financial situation, what age do you think what age do you think it's appropriate for parents to sort of introduce this topic, and where would you sort of recommend parents start? You mentioned that you sort of provide your son with an allowance and that sort of allows him to save up for Lego. So what do you think is sort of the best age bracket for parents to introduce this topic, and sort of how would you recommend they introduce it?
mm. Maybe I think more than 5 years old. I think they already somehow understand the value of the value, and because they already can learn simple math, right? So I'm just thinking like they can already understand about simple math. So I think 6 years we can already like start um, start implementing that. I think if
Yeah.
I remember Warren Buffett start investing 12 years old, and then
Yeah. Wow.
he mentioned it's investing, and he mentioned it's too late. So I'm like kind of
Oh, that's much too late for me then. Oh.
no, but it's better late than never, right?
Yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
but I think more than 5 years, I think already
Yeah.
6 year maybe, because they already understand about simple math, they already can count
Mm.
money, right? I think we can start to make them understand about that one. Because another thing that I found it's funny, uh, because nowadays we bring card, right?
Mm.
We don't bring money, right? So actually
Yeah.
children also observe. So my younger children one time ever like uh, uh ever he asked something, and then I mentioned, no money. Oh, it's okay, you can swap the card. You can
Yeah.
swipe, sorry, you cannot swap, you can swipe the card. So um I think it's also a starting point that we have to explain that, okay,
Mm.
it's not just swiping the card,
It's
you
not
have to
magic.
pay.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to pay as well. So I think yeah, I think giving them allowance, let them having having what, to some extent uh, access, but it's also access, right? Access to toward money, like they have allowance like that.
Mm.
But also somehow it gives them responsibility to manage and we know like the allowance that we give to them is not that, if he make mistake, if the children make mistake, it's not that all that they
Yeah.
have, right? Rather than it's late when they already grew up, and then they don't understand how to manage, and
Mm.
they make mistake with all their money. Better with the starting with a small amount of allowance that we give to them. I think yeah, 6 years old, more than 5 years old, we can start train them about that.
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah, the allowance thing that you brought up, I think is really helpful. I know when I was younger, sort of my parents would do the
Mm,
same thing. You know, if you got like a birthday card from your
oh,
grandma or your grandfather and it had, you know, maybe like $20 in cash in it, and
yes.
you were like, yeah, this is so awesome. And you know, you'd sort of put that away. And I think it's, yeah, helpful because then I'd go out and I'd want to get something and you know, you ask your parents to buy it for you, and they're like, "Well, no, if you want it, you have to spend your money." And then you're like, "Oh, I don't want to spend my money. Like, I want to spend your money. Like, I want to spend my money." Um, so yeah, I think it's a really helpful way. I think that definitely taught me as I was younger, yeah, sort of how to understand the value of my own money,
Yeah.
and sort of what that means. And yeah, and that helped me understand sort of the value of my parents' money, etc. And I think yeah, the difference between giving them sort of like cash
Mm.
and just sort of their understanding of what a credit card is. I think my brothers are exactly the same. They're sort of like, yeah, this is like some magic thing and the money just it's never ending. It's always going to be there. So I think that was so really if your kids are old enough to not swallow coins,
Mm,
then I think cash is always helpful because then and it's so satisfying for them to sort of collect it and
mm,
sort of see the kind of pile of coins and
mm.
sort of notes and stuff. And yeah, I think giving a child a card is a bit it's a bit wild because you know that you don't exactly I think even as an adult you sort of don't really you're not gauging as much sort of how much it actually is. I think
Mm,
having cash is so helpful because I'm like, oh, I have to part with it. It has to go away. Whereas if I just sort of tap my card, then it's sort of like, oh, it's just there. It's just magic in the air.
mm,
Um, so yeah, I think that's good advice. Yeah, for parents if you're sort of looking to implement that
mm,
and in your family environment sort of yeah being smart with money and having a healthy relationship with finances it's helpful to sort of bring it in at a young age and sort of implement it in a healthy and a positive way having that
mm,
positive and sort of fun relationship with it and understanding sort of the value of it in a positive mindset is so helpful for that productivity.
correct. And as they age, as they grow older, we can start like for the card and everything. It's sometimes like it can link to the parents, right? Parents card. So and also like just give them enough in their saving account. So later on they can also learn to manage as well the but any but I think they cannot use credit card until they are more than 17 years old, but they can
Yeah.
withdraw money. But they can withdraw money, right? With
Yeah.
the card. Yeah. With the card actually they can withdraw money. So yeah, give them enough amount actually also in their saving account as they grow older, and then
Mm.
they can withdraw money with the card that have it's somehow linked to the parents, so parents can always see as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think my dad did that with me and my younger brother. He set us up two bank accounts, but they were just sort of like debit savings. So
Mm.
you can't, there's no sort of like credit card sort of
Yeah.
situation, but you had your little card and it was so awesome and you had your name on it and you were like, yeah, I'm like a real
Yeah.
like adult. It's kind of cool. You're like 15, but like it was still really cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
but just give enough. I mean, not too
Yeah.
much also
Yeah, no.
because yeah, it just like enough for them to manage their own. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that definitely it sort of in um what's the word I want to use here? It informs sort of
Mm.
their work ethic. I know
Yeah.
a lot of parents sort of if you want allowance, you have to do certain chores or you have to sort of do certain things to sort of do that. So you have to do the work
Mm.
to get the money like you would in real life when you have a real job.
Mm.
So I think yeah, it's important to sort of don't throw free money at them
Mm.
because it's not free and sort of implement that healthy relationship with it so that when they're older they have those techniques and that
Mm.
sort of understanding of what it means.
It's already become their habit, right?
Yeah.
And they actually they can actually uh, when they actually get that allowance, and then they can be responsible. Actually, it sometimes they can be creative. Children can
Mm.
be creative also. Okay, what should I do, or what should I, uh, for example, to grow the amount of money. Um, my oldest son, like one time he sells something which I uh, he sells something to his friend, like just I think maybe the what you call the lid of the bottle, the lid
Yeah.
of the bottle. He said to me that can you sell that? I'm like surprised, like yeah, someone want to buy it like that. Someone want to buy it for playing game or something. I'm like, what? Yeah, I mean somehow they can also we can also they can be also creative sometimes, more than what we think. But of course, like we still have to monitor and evaluate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I think kids can be so creative in that. And, that's why they sit outside with their sort of lemonade stands and they sell little cups of lemonade that is so overpriced. But, they're getting the concept,
Yeah.
which is so important.
Mm.
So let's sort of talk a bit about budgeting techniques for the adults. So the 50-30-20 rule is one of the most widely used budgeting techniques. So it's where you divide accordingly 50% for essentials or your needs, 30% for discretionary spending, so your wants, and then 20% for savings. What are your thoughts on this technique? Do you think it's productive or do you think it's sort of too general?
First, about the okay, conceptually about allocation, it's we do need budgeting is actually we need to allocate, right? But
Mm.
about the percentage somehow, but about the percentage though, I think it's different person have different. It's not one formula for everyone. It's
Yeah.
like that for 50-30-20 is not one formula for everyone, but the essential point is about allocation, about how we allocate, how we do the allocation. I think asset allocation, income allocation is important, but for the percentage of the 50-30-20, that one is actually, I think it's different for every person. We cannot use that rule, that 50-30-20 for everyone. Yeah, but the
Yeah.
asset allocation concept, it is actually the main essential thing about budgeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So do you think that this is like a helpful budgeting tool that is productive? Or do you think that it can sort of, I don't know, do you think that it is too generalized?
In terms of 50/30/20, that one is actually cannot be used for everyone. But in terms of allocation, yes, we have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I think previously I mentioned, like once we receive our income, and then we start put, okay. For example, I use it to pay the bill. Uh, 30%, and then I invest it 30%, and then after that I use it maybe some amount also for uh, uh, for example, like okay, 15 to 20% for social, for example, and then after that for our needs. I think
Yeah.
that is the most important. It's the allocation. I mean, the allocation is the important thing, but the 50/30/20, that one, it's not the same for everyone.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
different for everyone,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. It is different for everybody. So
mm.
not all budgeting techniques are going to be the same. So some will be more productive for some people than others. So I think that that answers that question.
The
So
technique allocation, allocating money, it's for everyone, asset allocation,
yeah,
but not the percentage.
not the percentage. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
yeah.
Okay, so what are some other budgeting techniques that people may not know of?
I think many people already aware. I think, but I mean, like many people, but one thing that it's helpful also, like the apps or using card that can actually, we every time we spend, we just use the card or apps that one. So basically, it directly link and directly record our expenses. I think it help us to trace, and we don't need it help saving time also for us not to write our
Mm,
we just can evaluate from that one. That the first one. The second one, maybe investing. I think a lot of investment app at the moment that also we can use, but of course we have to spend time to learn and to do research whether it's actually legal or not, whether the app is actually uh, investor protection, for example. We have to learn also whether it's actually legal or not, and then also um, our pride is being protected or not.
mm,
Register in. I think every country has also regulatory body which actually rolls out,
yeah.
right? We have to understand about that one also, whether it's actually also from it's not Ponzi game, it's not Ponzi scheme game, but
Mm,
it is actually really also in investment. I think it's also helpful. I think at the moment a lot of apps that help us to uh, do the financial planning, but also uh, to help us also to do online investing. So we don't have, like I think previously we have to go to the bank, we have to uh, a lot of things, but now actually online investment apps is actually a lot, which save us a lot of time as well. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, um, you have to do that research. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
that the app is sort of legitimate and it's
Yes.
safe, and it's using, proper security measures so that your information isn't sort of being infiltrated. So yeah, make sure people
Yeah.
do your research. It's very, very important to do your research, especially when it comes to finances, because you work hard for those things. So, we're now going to delve into your personal practices and habits. So, as someone, I know you said you don't like being called the expert, but as someone who is very sort of educated, let's say, in this area, what is a practice that you do to improve your budgeting skills and optimize your productivity?
First, as I mentioned, like every time I have my earning, um, uh, or allowance that I get, I directly allocate that. So after I allocate, it's uh, I already fulfill all the primary thing, all the bills, all. So I at the end of the day, I do not have to worry all of that. That the first one, because the primary thing I already allocate for that one, and then I also allocate for investment, and then I live with the rest. So I think that the first thing that I do, and uh, now I think more time for me is actually not about allocating anymore, because I already somehow have the pattern about allocating that, but more toward like learning about investment products, about financial investment product, learning about the market, learning about how does certain things, like for example, NFT is really new for me. So now I also kind of learn what is actually that,
Yeah.
how does it works, because the blockchain technology and all of things, it's new for me. It's not
Mm.
it's not. So I even though I'm in finance, but I don't really, I, like our my investment is like more toward like the common product, like equity, fixed income, those kind of thing, mutual fund, right? Those kind of thing that we know. But I kind of also learn what is it about. And uh, I think for everything we need effort also to somehow read and learn. Yeah, I think that's for allocation. I think it's already pattern, it's already habit, so it's not really difficult to implement. Yeah, but investment product is evolving, so I think at the moment I catch up with that one as well. Yeah.
So, what are sort of three good things about this practice? Sort of what do you think are the benefits that you see the most when you sort of practice this sort of implementation?
First, it reduces hassleness, because like once again, at the end of the day, we are not worried with, okay, this bill I haven't paid, that bill I haven't paid, because we already allocate since the beginning. So I think it reduces hassleness. Second, it help us to to do other thing, which is actually uh, more productive, rather than we, for example, like if we think we have money, while actually we haven't paid our obligation at the first, at the end of the day we will be worried, right? And
Yeah.
also at the end of the day we will think like, how suppose I pay this or pay that. But when we actually already allocate that, so that's already fulfilled, at the end of the day we don't have to worry about that one anymore. Second, about the apps that is being used for recording our expenses, it also saving time, because previously I have a journal. I write down how much I spend every day, blah blah blah. But now I don't have to do that, because it's already recorded, and I just open the apps. I know, and even it did analysis, like how much is for transportation, how much is for food, how much is for other thing. So it also helped for the apps, for my recording my personal expenses. And the third one, I think it helped us to evaluate our use of money, or our money management. So uh, it also like help us to after evaluation, we know also which place that I want to return back, and which place maybe I don't want to return back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah, there's
that helped.
definitely lots of positives. Yeah, there's
Mm.
definitely lots of good things that come with that practice. But on the flip side, do you find any challenges when you do this?
No, I think it's simple. I mean, like the challenges that I learn now is more toward like learning about investment product,
Mm.
learning about the legitimacy, and also the investor protection. When I, for example, when we need to, when I need to, when I want to, when I want to, because when we invest, we also have to think where we invest our money, right? I think
Yeah,
that is,
definitely.
yeah, I think the challenging is because now it's evolving. Yeah, the investment product is evolving also. That is the, that we have to keep up and learning. Yeah, that's the one. But about allocation and that one, I think it's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think research Yeah, like you said, very, very important. Even if you're using an app or if you're investing, I think knowing where you're putting your investments is really important. I've noticed that that is definitely something that's come up a lot more, sort of an economic literacy as of recently, in terms of, is your investment going towards, a company or somewhere that is, affecting the environment, or are they affecting human rights or that sort of thing? So I think it's always really important to do your research, people. That's the key thing that I'm taking away from this at the moment. So how often do you do this? I guess you said you sort of do it on the monthly.
So, yep.
So how do you find time to sort of do this? Like, do you sit down for like a couple hours, or do you sort of do it sporadically, or do you sort of like set up a certain time where you sit down and you sort of go through sort of like your budget and make these allocations?
If allocation, once it's my earning, I receive my earning, I did it directly.
Yeah.
But for the, I think the one that for learning about investment, that one, it's not, there is no certain time, because sometimes market is very volatile, right? And also
Mm,
um, and news coming, and also unpredictability, many unpredictability thing also rise. So we, I think for learning about investment, learning about market, that one is more like no certain time. We read news, we learn about that one. But
yeah.
for personal budget allocation, I did it monthly. But for learning, and also for evaluating the performance of the investment product, that one, it's it's more, I think it's not there is like certain time to do it. It's more toward like a continuous thing that I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is probably an answerable
Yes,
question from what we've already talked about. But would you recommend that everybody do this?
I think allocation, certainly, for allocation.
Yeah.
And investing, yes, we have, because inflation at the moment, we are
Mm.
facing inflation, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you definitely need to do to invest, because the real amount of the money is actually shrinking.
Mm.
Inflation mean like, with the same amount of money, the 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 purchasing power of the money is actually shrinking, right?
Yeah.
So it's important for us to actually wisely also think and put uh, and invest the money. Yeah, so it's also, or maybe like, if you need to spend it, spend also at the moment, because maybe if you want to buy it next period, it's already like more.
Yeah.
If we cannot invest and earn more than inflation, actually better to spend now, right, rather than later, like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
of course,
definitely.
once again, because we need to put aside some amount of money, for example, for our pension, for later period. We need, I think we need to also think about where to put that
Mm.
investment amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, based on your experience, do you have any other recommendations of practices that can be combined or sort of improved in this practice?
Mm, I I think I think the it's general things, but for combine and improving, uh maybe when it's depend upon our current circumstances, because everyone has different risk tolerance.
Mm,
If it is talking about investment, for example, everyone has a different risk tolerance, everyone has different time horizon for investment. And then uh, also different life cycle, different, because it's also will affect how we actually want to uh, invest the money, and also spend the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So that pretty much wraps up our sort of practice and habit debrief. So we're going to move into open mic now. So this is essentially where you get to talk about anything that you're passionate about or anything that you want to share with the listeners. It doesn't have to be related to budgeting or sort of the general topic. It can be about whatever you want to talk about.
Ah, I think I already somehow mentioned about environment and economy, environment
Yeah.
and financial system. I think because everyone actually because we cannot avoid that. For example, when we want to make environment more, we want to promote environmental friendly action because people also like they have economic incentives. Actually there are many ways we should think of uh, to incentivize people to also involve in the environmental protection. I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the
Yeah,
moment
definitely.
currently I read more about that.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've touched on this already,
Mm,
but I think
mm,
it's such an important topic. I think the environment is affected by everything we do,
mm,
whether it's our economics or our sort of like our fashion industry or our food habits or that sort of thing. I think all those things require money. They all
mm,
require economics. And so I think, learning how to be productive and sustainable,
mm.
sort of with your purchases, I think that's something
Yes.
that, people are learning more about. And I think it's so important that we sort of, kind of continue spreading that education about it because it's not something that I know that I've haven't thought about it too much, but something that my parents' generation have,
Mm,
haven't given sort of too much thought to. But I think it's something that we're looking at a lot more now. A lot more
mm.
products when you go to the shops, they're
Yes.
sort of promoting the fact that they're more environmentally friendly, and
And actually,
yeah,
we are as a consumer, we have power as well, right? To
mm,
choose and to decide actually. Yeah, but once again, both from the producer and consumer, we are actually at the moment maybe we are consumer, but we also sometimes can think about producing something from the producing something and earn something from the and for example like we have a problem of for example I just give a really practical example. I know in my hometown there is unused leaf, unused leaf. It's actually what you call we maybe we think about it's actually like as a garbage, right?
yeah,
Because it's unused leaf, but actually um, they 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 use that and they produce it become something actually handmade, which is
yeah,
actually
wow,
very yeah. So it's actually uh, beautiful and also useful, and they actually can earn additional income from that one. So
yeah.
this this mother is actually having creative also. They actually in one sense help the environment, but it's also help the economy of the family. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
definitely. I think that's been something that I've been looking at sort of recently. Maybe not so much in the environmental aspect, but now that you say it, it makes a lot of sense in terms of providing people, sort of with that education and those skills, and sort of that understanding of how they can like sort of make an economic benefit for themselves, but also help sort of others in the environment and that sort of thing. And I think that's something, that's very important. And I think it comes down to education, people learning about these things and also having the ability to, learn about these things, being in school and having that, you know, access to school and education to learn about the environment and learn how they can affect the economy, and how can they affect themselves financially.
yes. And
So
also
yes, education.
physically, it's
Yeah,
environment is also affected physically, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, as we're seeing at the moment everywhere, we've got extreme temperatures here in Melbourne. It's been so insanely freezing, and we're
Mm.
not even in the peak of winter yet. But then when you're in
Later on
Queensland,
December,
yeah,
but later
yeah,
on December you will experience very hot weather.
Exactly. And there's lots of parts of Australia that are still, yeah, like Queensland's struggling with extreme flooding, and it's still
Mm,
hot in a lot of parts of Queensland, even though
mm,
it's really cold here in Melbourne. So I think, yes, educating yourself about economics and how that affects the environment, I think, is
mm,
such an important topic that we definitely need to talk about.
and many simple thing that we can do actually. It's but if like simple thing that we do, but if many people do it, I think it's somehow also giving great impact. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
Awesome. So thank you for that. That was great.
yes.
That was good conversation. And I think, yeah, if for the listeners, I think that's an incredible topic, yeah, for people to do more research on and to learn more about, and to educate themselves on. Yeah, and just the little things you can do on the daily, sort of, recycling. Or in Australia, I know there's certain states. I know in Queensland you can take plastic bottles back to sort of the factory, and they'll give you 10 cents in return. My brothers collect. My
Yes.
brothers have lots and lots of cans and
Mm,
bottles. So things like that, I
mm,
think, are really incredible initiatives that sort of help out the economy, help yourself financially, and also help the environment, which
mm.
is totally awesome. So we're gonna go into audience questions now. So we've got our three audience questions. So the first question is from somebody who wants to know, if I want to retire early, what sort of budgeting techniques would you recommend?
I think maybe the question more toward like how to plan if he or she want to retire early. I think
Yeah,
first thing like we have to think like how old is she now or is he now, and then when uh, when when we want to retire, and then afterward we can calculate actually how much amount of money that we need for the retirement period. Okay, and then how much that we have to invest or in save and invest from the current period until the retirement period. I think
yeah,
that's using time value of money also we can calculate that. And for the investment product, I think, yeah, but there are also it's we need to read. And but I think many banks also have retirement fund program for
yeah,
saving and investment. Yeah, we have to read that also. First first thing about like how old the current moment, and then how old he or she is want to have the retirement, how long, and then we can calculate how much is it, and then we how much we need to invest per month
yeah.
until the retirement. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of different factors that I think you do have to take into account. And I think, yes, there's a lot of banks that I think sort of can sort of help you with this. So, yeah, there's lots of different sort of ways to implement this. But I think, yeah, budgeting and sort of figuring out what works best for you is probably the best first step.
Actually, we can count because I don't know how old is he or she, but actually I can help also. Like for example, how old is he now, and then how old he wants or she wants to have the retirement. For example, from the current moment until he or she retired, it's 20 years, and
Yeah,
then how long he or she want to have the. I mean, like uh, uh, of course we don't know how long in exact, but at least like okay.
yeah,
Maybe like 10 or 15 years, for example for 10 or 15 years, so then we can calculate how much amount that we have to provide
mm,
uh, at the retirement period to live for the retirement. Actually, we can calculate that easily uh, um, using spreadsheet, yeah, or
okay.
just calculator, yeah. Just
Oh,
like I
awesome.
don't know how old, yeah,
Yeah,
but at
yeah.
the moment there are
Unfortunately,
many.
I don't either.
But there are many actually financial calculator that can be used also for that one.
Oh,
Just input how old are you, how old are you, and then when do you want to have your retirement, and then for how long, and then directly they can calculate approximately per month to be saving and invest.
wow.
Yeah, we
That's
just
so
input
awesome.
that. Yeah.
I'm totally going to go look that up.
Yep.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yep.
So for that listener, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. If you, yep, there's apps and calculators and there's, yep, things that you can go and look up to help you figure that out. That's
Yep.
awesome. Okay. So our second question is from a listener who says, I tend to spend money on treats to make me feel motivated while working. As a result, I end up spending a lot of money that is more than I should. What can I do as an emotional spender?
What is treat? Is it she spent for
Yeah.
what?
So I think she spends money sort of on things to make herself feel better. So as
Ah,
motivation.
ah,
So I guess it's sort of it's something that I do as well. Sort of emotional spending. You know, you
um,
buy things, sort of like retail therapy.
okay.
Sort of buy things to make yourself feel better, but you sometimes can end up spending a lot of money. So this listener wants to know sort of what can they do, or what sort of advice do you have for someone who sort of tends to spend a lot of money on treats to motivate themselves?
Okay, so first allocation, that one is very important. I think it will kind of help also. For example, like they because people tend to think that okay, this is the amount that money that I still have. But when we actually already reduce it, for example, we receive and then 30% we already use it for paying all the bills, and then
Mm.
30% for investment, only left 40%, right? So
Yeah,
then the most he or she will spend like only from this 40%, 40% like bracket, 40% basket, right? So somehow it actually helped because he or she will not think that I have this 100%, but actually at the end he or she will end up only this 40%, right? I only
yeah,
have this 40%, so it somehow I think help in reducing the rather than we do not allocate at all. So we think that we have this 100%, but if we already have,
yeah,
we only have this basket 40%. So then we also think, okay, I need to eat, I need to do something. So it can help psychologically. I think it can help, but it's not actually. It's good also to reward yourself, but or to give motivation. But I think for that one need measurable outcome. So so for example, like okay, I for example I already do one good projects and then the result is good, then I treat myself. It's
yeah,
not that I haven't achieved it, but then I reward it. It's actually not rewarding. It's not a reward, right? Because reward is something that you do after you achieve something. Yeah,
yeah,
I think allocation. So uh, after you reduce that one, so it means that you only have this 40%. It helps, and then the second one also maybe should have measurable outcome of to give reward to ourselves. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, definitely. Yeah, you don't have to go like full cold turkey at first, but just sort of, yeah, having that measurable outcome and sort of
mm,
understanding, yeah, sort of that allocation is very important.
mm.
All right, and our final audience question is from a listener who wants to know if there is an effective way to stick to our own budgeting. So, is there a way to help us sort of not get lazy with our budgeting?
Start simple. That the first one simple in the sense that because you already allocate, right? So you it's simple because first when we have earning, we directly already allocate for the prioritizing and investment, and then the, I think after that, for example, we only have this 40%. We actually it's simple for us, right? Because we don't have to, because like this, when we think we have money, we tend to think that what do I want to buy, what should I
Yeah.
buy with this money, right? but
Yeah.
but once, for example, we receive $1,000, and then we already cut that for all the bill, 300 and then 300 for the investment. It's already allocated, right? So we only left 400, right? So I think it helps. So we now we are not thinking like, okay, I have 1,000, but instead, okay, I have 400, so have to live with this this amount of money. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that helps.
definitely.
Mm,
Yeah, having that mindset, of knowing sort of what you're allocated and having to think about that every month, I think will definitely you'll naturally kind of build that sort of, understanding of how to be productive with your budgeting and sort of how to be effective with it. Yeah.
And also, one thing that I learned also, actually, there is also auto debit for investment, auto saving. So, for example, we have that one directly; it will be deducted, and pick the date. For example, we receive earning on 20, for example, for on 25, for example. So just pick, for example, 26 to deduct the money from our money for investment. So it will be directly deducted, like auto saving. We don't have to invest. So it will be, we don't have to what we don't have to do it ourselves. It will be like every month will be deducted like that, and deducted
Yep.
after we receive the money. So for example, 25 we receive the earning, 26 directly, every 26 every month will be deducted for the investment, for example, like that.
Yep.
Like what I give example, like 1,000 directly deducted 300, or 250, for example. So it's auto saving, right? So automatically when we see our bank account, it's actually only left the one that is,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's easier, right, to manage.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already allocated it for you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I
Yes.
hope, that answers that question for that
Mm.
listener. And that pretty much brings us to the end of our podcast. Thank you so much, Pei Fun,
Thank
for
you,
being here.
Tia. Mm.
Had such a great time. I hope, that people are able to walk away with this with a more sort of educated understanding of budgeting and sort of change your attitude towards it. Like, it can be fun and it's a positive thing, and it's so important for us to have a healthy relationship with our finances and our budgeting. And I know that this is definitely it's motivated me to sort of confront my sort of bad spending habits. So I think I'll definitely be going home and sort of allocating and sort of figuring out what my budget is. So thank you so much, Payfun, for being
Thank
here.
you. Nice talking to you, Tia,
Thank
and
you. And to our
everyone.
listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You have been listening to Work in Progress, the Personal Productivity Science Insights podcast produced by the Life Management Science Labs. Listen to episodes from LMSL's 10 Life Management Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or other podcasting apps on your smartphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps others find us and us grow to bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at pp.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Tia Harmer. Thanks for tuning in.